end of the first lap. So I think Giovinazzi got back past him at some point. They've both now got Perez right behind them. So those are the next two chicanes for Perez to get around. Now, Leclerc's lost a little bit of pace on this lap, and he might be under pressure from Daniel Ricciardo. He comes across the line, and he's going to be too far back to get the DRS from Norris in 4th. So Ricciardo in 6th will get the drag reduction system down towards turn 1. Leclerc covers the inside, Ricciardo to the outside. And then it'll just be a case of Ricciardo biding his time and trying to do it up to 4. Bit squirrely on the throttle, though.
Alonso's pitted for Alpine, out of the top 10. The first genuine pit stop of the race. There he goes, screeching away from softs to mediums. Ricciardo side by side with Leclerc up to turn 4.
At the moment, it is Leclerc holding on to that position, and he has managed to hold on into 4. So this is going to be quite a long fight for Charles Leclerc. Norris, Leclerc, Ricciardo, Stroll, Sainz all on the soft compound of tyre. The top 3 are the 3 on the mediums. Hamilton still doing a good job to be just 1.6 seconds back from Max Verstappen.
Lapping the same pace last time around. 36.1 for Verstappen and Hamilton. 36.3 for Bottas, who's still just within 5 seconds of Hamilton, but 6 away from Verstappen at the end of lap 12. But they are breaking free now. The top 3, they're a second a lap quicker than Norris in 4th.
And you're just Hamilton's sitting there, Jenny, maybe just sitting in undercut territory at the moment.
Yeah, this is a funny old circuit, and the tyres are really particular here. If you put on a new set of tyres, you go super fast on the way out. So we're just seeing Alonso now. He's come out on a new set of the medium tyres. 24 seconds for a pit stop if you pull in, change those 4 tyres and get back out again. And you can just go so rapid. That's what we're watching out for.
Now, McLaren are first to blink in the midfield by the looks of things, and it is Lando Norris in 4th place then that they've decided to pit first, and Charles Leclerc pits as well. So that frees up Ricciardo to try and do a bit of an overcut maybe, or an extension. We'll wait and see. But into the pits comes Norris, new set of medium tyres, and away he goes. A 3.2 second pit stop isn't super rapid, although it looked a bit slow on the rear left for the Ferrari, and Leclerc comes out behind, almost a collision, as into the pits came one of the Alfa Romeos, nearly getting collected by Lance Stroll on the way out of the pits. Here comes Fernando Alonso. He's made up quite a decent amount of ground. He's now behind Charles Leclerc. There's a chance here Alonso could end up ahead of Ricciardo, if depending on when Ricciardo pits. That's
the difference of 1 lap worth of undercut there. Alonso pumping in a fast outlap. He's jumped way clear of Lance Stroll again, and he's on the tail of Charles Leclerc suddenly, so he's going to be probably ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, unless Ricciardo can produce some magic on this in lap, but he's not on a personal best lap or anywhere near that right now. So going long is looking like it's hurting the drivers in the midfield, and it will be the same for Verstappen out front with Hamilton within 2 seconds. That is prime undercut territory.
Okay, Lisa, won't be long. Just close up.
Okay, it won't be long, says Hamilton, or Hamilton's radio message from Peter Bonington. Just close up. Mercedes are ready in the pit lane now with a set of hard tyres by the looks of things.
One stopper for Hamilton then, potentially, from a medium to a hard.
He's in, and he's out again. Just like that. 2.9 seconds, not the quickest lap pit stop in the world.
Here's the pressure then. How much did Verstappen have in the tank? He's got to do a qualifying style lap now on those 14-lap-old medium tyres to stay clear of Hamilton.
Well, Max Verstappen is leading the way, Steve, but Lewis Hamilton has just made his first pit stop. He's gone onto the hard tyres, so it might be a different strategy between the Mercedes and the Red Bulls. We'll see in a couple of moments, but Verstappen, Jolyon Palmer, has led from the start and is at the moment in the box seat.
I don't even know if he is right now, Jack. Hamilton's on a flyer on his outlap, and Verstappen out front is not doing the strongest lap right now. He needs to put it all together. He's going to pit at the end of this one, and then it's going to be mighty close between Hamilton on a new set of hard tyres and whatever tyres Verstappen goes on in the Red Bull. That'll be for the lead of the Grand Prix.
Verstappen then leading the way, 6.5 seconds clear of Valtteri Bottas in second position, who also hasn't pitted. So this is the other crucial thing for the battle for the lead, is can both Mercedes work against the one Red Bull that are in the fight for first place?
It was a good pit stop for Mercedes as well, and Hamilton is doing a good job on this outlap. He's 1.4 seconds quicker than Verstappen in the middle sector. They've done it, so Verstappen can't pit, and he doesn't pit. He stays out. Hamilton is now the net leader of the race. If Verstappen were to pit, as Hamilton has done, he will come out behind the Mercedes driver. The only thing left now is to go long and have better tyres for later on.
Okay, so this is turning into a fascinating strategical duel in the desert, and we've got full commentary on 5 Live Sports Extra. Verstappen leading the way, but Hamilton with the strategical advantage at the moment, Steve. Now, Hamilton is up behind Sainz and only just in front of Sergio Perez. So this is going to be crucial for Hamilton to try and clear Carlos Sainz quickly. And I think he is going to clear Carlos Sainz quickly. Pulls to the right-hand side. He's got fresher tyres and he cruises past. Lando Norris sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Hamilton is only 21 seconds back from Max Verstappen already, so you're absolutely right. What should Red Bull have done differently? Could Red Bull have done something differently? Were they just in that position of in the lead? You're going to struggle, because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Very, very tricky. When you've got a driver that's just sitting within the undercut gap, within the 2 seconds, on a track like this where the degradation's higher, you put on a new set of tyres, you find a lot of pace. You can maybe undercut in one lap quite easily. It's really tricky. If Verstappen pits when Hamilton pits, he's preempted it. Fine, they've covered off the pit stop, but Hamilton can then go long, do another 5-10 laps on a medium tyre, and he's going to be crawling over the back of Verstappen at the end of the race. That's basically now what Verstappen's got to do. There's no point in pitting the lap after, because then he's on the same tyres as Hamilton, but he's lost track position, and it's just role reversal.
The wind is making it super hard for me now.
Understood, Max.
Hamilton across the line sets the fastest lap of the race. He's just 19.6 seconds back now from Max Verstappen in the lead of the Grand Prix. Bottas in second is 6 seconds back from Verstappen. Into the pits now comes Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. Sergio Perez is now up into 4th place, but he has made one pit stop on the mediums, but he's yet to really make a pit stop. Sebastian Vettel is the other driver who's going pretty long for the Aston Martin team in the early stages, but as you would expect, because he started on the mediums right at the back of the field.
This is not looking good for Red Bull. This is not looking good for Red Bull. As Hamilton comes through, does the fastest lap of the race, 2.9 seconds quicker than Verstappen on 1 lap alone. So at this point, you can't go too much longer, because you're just losing time hand over fist. It's now 19 seconds. Hamilton's off the lead of the race. Give it another couple of laps, it'll be 15 seconds. He's almost going to be gaining that pit stop back in a few laps' time if Verstappen tries to do something else.
Well, that's the question then. So is this a definite one-stopper for Hamilton, you think?
Well, I think he's pitted maybe too early to get this hard tyre to the end, but they've got the option because they've now used 2 different compounds of tyre. Verstappen now has to stick to his guns and go for a one-stopper, really, but he's losing so much time. He's going to be vulnerable if Hamilton does a 2-stopper at the end of the race, just being faster the whole way through.
Lando Norris going past Sebastian Vettel. Vettel's still out there on those old medium tyres. Andrew Benson, BBC's chief F1 writer, what's your summary of what you're seeing at the moment?
Well, I think it was interesting that Hamilton could sit within 2 seconds of Verstappen in the first stint, because we know that these cars are affected by the aerodynamics, the turbulence created by the car in front. So that was a good sign for Hamilton to start with. They've got the jump on the undercut, as you've been saying, and he's now in the pound seat, I think. And they could potentially try to take these hard tyres to the end. I don't think they will. I think they'll make another stop. But they've kind of snookered Verstappen, and he seems to be driving a hampered car to one degree or another. So on the face of it right now, it looks like Hamilton's in charge.
If he wasn't snookered before, he is now, because Mercedes have now double whammied it, really. By pitting Bottas from 6 seconds behind Verstappen, they're now really forcing Verstappen to pit from the lead of the race. Otherwise, they're going to not only lose track position to Hamilton, but they're going to lose it to Bottas as well, and it's going to be twofold. So in the next lap or two, Red Bull are going to have to pit Verstappen. He's going to have a few laps fresher tyres than Hamilton, but he's going to be actually a good chunk behind him.
Lap 17 of 56. Fascinating Bahrain Grand Prix here on 5 Live Sports Extra. The sound you can hear now is the Alpine, the blue Alpine of Fernando Alonso, who's up behind Lance Stroll. We'll give you the order. Verstappen leads, but has yet to stop. Here's Verstappen's radio, then I'll give you the order.
Box and pit confirm, Max. Box and pit confirm.
Okay, well, let's do the order after that then, shall we? Because into the pit lane comes Max Verstappen from a set of medium tyres. What are Red Bull going to put him on here? Comes into the pits, changes all four rubber, and it's new mediums. So that is a full commitment to a two-stop strategy for Max Verstappen. Try and exploit the pace of the medium tyres in this second stint. Maybe do a final stint on the softs, but whatever the case, Hamilton leads the Grand Prix. Max Verstappen emerges in second place, just ahead of his teammate Sergio Perez, who, in theory, has one more stop to make, the same as Max Verstappen. Valtteri Bottas is fourth in the Mercedes, fifth is Lando Norris in the McLaren. Leclerc, Vettel, Ricciardo, Stroll, Alonso, the rest of the top 10. Sainz is down in 11th place. Raikkonen, Ocon, Tsunoda, Giovinazzi, the top 15. Russell, Gasly, Latifi and Schumacher, the 19 drivers. Mazepin out of the race, Jenny Gao.
Yeah, so Verstappen had one new medium, which is just used, and one new hard. He doesn't have any new soft tyres, whereas Hamilton coming into this had two new hard tyres and no medium. So I think that choice that they had in the qualifying session has led them to these decisions.
Lap 18 of 56. Bottas is now trying to pressure Sergio Perez for second place. And he looks like he's going to be able to get through fairly swiftly, Valtteri Bottas, and this is going to cost him a bit in his fight with Verstappen. Perez covers the inside. Bottas has to go to the outside towards turn 11, but he might get the move done here. Indeed he does. Perez struggling with those old tyres.
He's not doing too bad a job though, Perez. He's actually matching pace with Leclerc, who's had a pit stop. He's not far off Norris.
He does really something on the mirror. I just have no grip out of turn one.
Understood, Max.
So Verstappen saying he has no grip out of turn one, which, as we alluded to before, if Mercedes think that's the differential, that's the reason that could be happening, as Verstappen is in second place then. But as you say, Perez doing a very, very nice job, because he's in fourth place and in theory could have the same amount of pit stops to make as Norris and Leclerc and the like behind him. It would be a stretch for him to do, but if anyone can look after some tyres, it's the Mexican.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be switching to effectively a one stop, which is one more stop for Perez, the same as everyone else. So he started too far. I mean, he started last after his formation lap issue, but if he was starting at the front, he could be a factor in this for Red Bull right now, because he's able to look after the tyres quite well. But because he started last, if he can recover to fourth where he is right now, that'd be a great result. Verstappen is not happy in that car, is he?
What can Red Bull do from here then? So at the moment, Hamilton and Mercedes are in the seat to win this Grand Prix. Red Bull have to take the win off them. What can they do?
Yeah, so they've done something different to Mercedes. For a start, is the number one thing. If you're in second and you do the same strategy as the guy in the lead, it's going to be hard to beat them. So medium tyres for Verstappen will give him a bit more pace right now. In theory, he should be able to close up on Hamilton, and he is starting to close up. Now he's on a flying lap, 7 tenths quicker than Hamilton through the middle sector. That's where there's a lot of corners, and the medium tyres will work well. So now he's got to close up to Hamilton and then sit within 2 seconds of Hamilton and do to Hamilton what Hamilton did to him. Basically, the undercut into the third stint. We know that Verstappen's got to do a third pit stop. Hamilton technically doesn't have to do a third pit stop, but probably will have to, because he pitted so early, the hard tyres won't make the end. It's all about one undercut for Red Bull, unless Verstappen can do some magic on the track.
Lance Stroll is trying to get past his teammate Sebastian Vettel in the two Aston Martins. Into the pits comes Sergio Perez then for a switch onto the hard tyres. Now that should see him to the end of the Grand Prix now, Perez. We'll see where he emerges in the Red Bull. Hamilton leads the way. Verstappen was 9 tenths of a second quicker on the last lap than him. And meanwhile, Fernando Alonso is going up the inside of Sebastian Vettel. Vettel loses 2 places, one to his teammate and one to Alonso. And not pitting here for Vettel. Seems like it's just sort of sending him tumbling down the order. He's fighting back with Alonso now. Alonso and Vettel wheel to wheel like it's 2012 all over again. In behind is Carlos Sainz locking up in the Ferrari, but Vettel has managed to hold on to the place. Alonso keeping his nose in, but nice fighting between the pair of them, although it just feels like this is all a bit of a... Well, no, Vettel's in the position where he could pull a one stop out of this. If he can hold these places and you know, he might have the same amount of stops left as Alonso and Sainz behind him, which would be quite a good effort.
He's going to be in a similar boat to Perez further up the road, but he's already with Alonso and Sainz, and Alonso and Sainz are on much faster tyres, so they'll pass him, and then they'll all have one pit stop to do. So Vettel's still got a long afternoon ahead, but he's having some nice scraps here with Alonso and the other Spaniard, Carlos Sainz, just behind, the three of them right together. Some nice wheel-to-wheel driving there from Sebastian Vettel, holding Alonso back for another lap at least.
Really enjoying this Grand Prix. Really good stuff. Lap 21 of 56. 3 cars flashing over the curb on the exit of turn 13, all queued up behind Sebastian Vettel, who in all of this fighting is allowing his teammate Lance Stroll to just get away a little bit up at the front, which is good news team-wise, but this surely will be the time for Alonso. But will it be the time for Carlos Sainz? He fancies 2 positions here on the run down the start-finish straight, coming up to some 200 miles an hour. Vettel doesn't defend this time. Alonso goes to the inside. Sainz tries to follow through as well. Alonso just locks up the front right, goes in deep, and Sainz tries to go around the outside of Vettel. Sainz might get the Alpine of Alonso now as they come up towards turn 4. Alonso covers the inside. The 2 Real Madrid fans going side by side into turn 4. Vettel's back up the inside of Alonso, and Alonso locks up. Lovely stuff. Sainz gains 2 places. He's up to 8th. Vettel 9th. Alonso, in all of the wheel-to-wheel racing, gets shuffled back down the order a little bit. Oh, old man, he's lost it.
What a beautiful scrap, though, between the 3 of them. Really nice stuff. Sainz just sitting there, biding his time, and then through 2 in 2 corners. And Sebastian Vettel must be having a smile on his face right now. Once again coming back through. He actually lost 2 places. There was Alonso came through, then Sainz came through. Vettel was behind Alonso with a car in between, and he still managed to get back through on the inside of turn 4.
Yeah, really, really fun stuff. And Vettel didn't even really defend coming down into the hairpin at turn 1, just played the long game. Alonso snatched the front right. Sainz went around the outside of Vettel at 2. Very, very good stuff. The gap at the front, though, down to 4.2 seconds now between Hamilton and Verstappen. It was another second that Verstappen took out of Hamilton on the last lap. All of a sudden, Sergio Perez is making a move on Sebastian Vettel. So he's got past Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel in the time it takes for us to look at a replay, and I didn't even realise Perez was near them.
He's going well, Perez, in this Grand Prix. He's got DRS, so he should clear away from Vettel as well, despite passing him in the unorthodox final corner.
Hamilton is now in the lead. He has got the advantage over Max Verstappen, but Verstappen is closing in on him. He's going a second a lap quicker than the Mercedes driver out in front. They're on slightly different strategies, so although Hamilton has the advantage at the moment, this is a long way from over. Full commentary on Sports Extra. Vettel absolutely steamed it into turn 1, went way past the braking zone, almost ended up in Manama, and that's allowed Kimi Raikkonen to come through now up into 11th place.
Raikkonen on a hard tyre, the same as Perez. Great scrapping the whole way through this midfield. All the cars so close. We've got an Alfa Romeo in there with an Aston Martin, a recovering Red Bull, the Alpine of Alonso, a Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. They're all scrapping like they'll never have another Grand Prix again. It's brilliant to watch. And these are champions we're watching here, all duking it out for 1 point in the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Verstappen takes another 4/10 out of a second out of Lewis Hamilton's lead. It's down to 3.8 seconds now. The gap between Hamilton in first and Verstappen in second. Jenny Gow.
Speaking to Pirelli, they say the maximum these hard tyres could do would be 30 laps. So Lewis Hamilton would have to do a lot more than 30 laps to get to the end of the race. So let's see what happens. And just a note, Toto Wolff on the radio to Valtteri Bottas saying hunt him down. He's talking about Verstappen, of course, and this after Bottas asked for a bit more interaction from Toto Wolff last year. He wanted him to pump him up. So Toto is pumping up Bottas.
Yeah, I think it's a bit too far. You're right on the hards for Hamilton. We'll wait and see. But I think Williams say 35 laps for the hard tyres, which is basically what Perez is going to have to do.
He's got 36 to do. So he's going to defy everyone's prediction, hasn't he?
Sorry.
6 more than Pirelli, 1 more than Williams says possible. If anyone can make a tyre last, it will be Sergio Perez, and he's up in 9th place. He's recovering really well in the Red Bull that had to start from the back of the field.
Hamilton steadied the ship a little bit now. Verstappen was really carving into the advantage of Hamilton, but it's just steadied a little. Kimi Raikkonen has just overtaken Fernando Alonso. Alonso, Vettel and Raikkonen all squabbling for the final World Championship point.
Not looking good for Alpine. Remember, Alonso started the race so well, hustling away at the back of Daniel Ricciardo, then managed to jump Stroll and Ricciardo by pitting early. He's now been shuffled down by Ricciardo, Stroll, Sainz, Perez and Raikkonen outside of the top 10, and he's got another pit stop to make. That's Fernando Alonso. He's still ahead of his teammate Esteban Ocon, who's down in 14th, ahead of Giovinazzi, Russell, Latifi, Schumacher and Gasly, who is still going, but right down at the back of the field.
It's kind of classic Alonso, isn't it? Hustling, experience, great driving, but eventually he's only got the car under him that he's got under him. We saw the same in sort of 2018 with McLaren. Do some great things, suddenly be in a fight and you'd think, what is he doing there? But when all is said and done, he's driving the car he's driving. Vettel about to be overtaken by Yuki Tsunoda, coming down into the first corner. Tsunoda pulls through, gets the inside and up into 12th position, lap 24 of 56. The order is Hamilton leading, 4 seconds ahead of Verstappen in second, 3.6 to Bottas in third. Norris in fourth is 16 seconds back from the top three. Then it's Leclerc 2.5 seconds back, Ricciardo 5.5 seconds back, Stroll in seventh, Sainz in 8th, just ahead of Sergio Perez in 9th, and Kimi Raikkonen completing the top 10 at the moment. So Perez and Sainz is going to be the next major battle in the top 10 positions. It was a fairly straightforward overtake for Yuki Tsunoda as he pulled past Sebastian Vettel for 12th spot.
Hamilton and Verstappen lapping at the same pace now, 3.7 seconds the gap. If Verstappen wants to win the race, he's got to close that down to within 2 seconds and go for a long-range undercut attempt. That's the way Verstappen wins this Grand Prix. But I think Hamilton was maybe just managing his pace. The guy knows how to win a Grand Prix. He knows how to make a tyre last to the end of the race, even when it seems like it might not be possible. And I think maybe he was just managing the hard tyres just slightly for a few laps, letting Verstappen close up a bit. And now he's upped his own pace, and he was just over a tenth quicker than Max on the last lap. Now 3.8 seconds the gap. Bottas another same gap again, 3.8 seconds further back from Verstappen. This is Hamilton of 2020 right now, and Verstappen has got to find something in his car that may be hobbled, and certainly seems it through the first few corners. He's got to find something if he wants to win this race.
Carlos Sainz in 8th position in the Ferrari, under big pressure now from Sergio Perez in the Red Bull. Sebastian Vettel pits finally in the Aston Martin, and Perez goes around the outside of Carlos Sainz into turn 4. Plenty of room on the exit and gets the job done nicely. So Perez up into 8th position. His next target will be Lance Stroll, who is 1.4 seconds up the road. So it won't be too long before the Red Bull is on the back. And there was a lot of, you know, fairly nonsense claims yesterday after qualifying of, oh, Red Bull number 2, you know, Perez no better than any of the others, etc. But this drive today from Perez, you wouldn't have seen Albon or Gasly do this, I don't think. Just carve through the field, quicker car, through I come, doing a solid job.
This is the Sergio Perez we saw last year, and for many years, making it work on the tyres in race conditions on a Sunday. And he started from the back. It started from 11th and the back. Either way, I don't think he's mixing it with the top 3 today. He's going to have to qualify with them. But this is the difference, I think, with Red Bull now. They've got a driver that can do something different at the wheel. He's a master on the tyres. He's very clinical with overtaking. He won from being last at the end of the Sakir Grand Prix last year. He can make it work, and right now, he's looking like he's going to cruise back to 4th place by the end of the Grand Prix. He's already on the tail of Lance Stroll. He's going very quickly.
Down into the first corner, not quite close enough to make the move on Stroll there, but he made the move on Sainz up the hill into turn 4 on the previous lap, and he maybe not quite close enough this time around. A couple more tenths and Perez would have been through. But as it is, Stroll holds on to that 7th spot at the moment. Perez's laps are fresher. Hamilton's tyres are 12 laps old. Verstappen's are 8s and they're mediums. Bottas's are 9 and they're hards. Verstappen is, again, just chipped away a little more. It looked like it was 3.1 seconds last I saw to Hamilton. So the gap comes down again a little bit.
And it's coming down again on this lap. 3/10 quicker in the middle sector.
Yuki Tsunoda has just overtaken Fernando Alonso from about 10 car lengths back down into the first corner. He's in a quicker car and everything, but in your rookie race, that's a bold move, and he pulled it off no problem.
He's just bold, isn't he, Tsunoda?
Yeah.
He doesn't know what's this Formula One's all about. Q1 yesterday, bam, P2 ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Fernando Alonso lunging him from 10 car lengths back in your rookie race. Great move. Up into 11th. AlphaTauri, I mean, overall, they're the disappointment of the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
The car that looked like they might be best of the rest, and were flying yesterday. Gasly starting 5th on the better tyres for the race, the mediums. He obviously had his contact with Ricciardo early on, which has left him mired down at the back of the field. And Tsunoda's not made the progress just yet, but more moves like that, and he's going to be getting some points.
Perez now ahead of Lance Stroll and up into 7th position in the Red Bull. And his next target will be Daniel Ricciardo, who's 4.6 seconds up the road. So we'll see whether Perez is able to close in that gap. Hamilton's lead down to 2.3 seconds now. So it's stabilized, didn't it, for a while, and then suddenly, bam, Verstappen has turned it up to 11 again.
It's actually Hamilton that's dropped it down. It's Hamilton that's just lost half a second of pace. Verstappen's just able to hold the pace around a 1:35.0. He's just dropped into the 34s on the last lap. But Hamilton's just starting to drop away. Remember, he pitted earlier by 4 laps. He's on a hard tyre that should be more durable, but it also should be a little bit slower. And Verstappen's able to get to the back, and that magic 2 seconds of Lewis Hamilton. Jack, this could be a thriller.
Lap 28 of 56. Hamilton leads, Verstappen 2nd, Bottas 3rd, Norris 4th, Leclerc 5th, Ricciardo, Perez, Stroll, Sainz, Ricciardo the top 10, Tsunoda's in 11th, the 2 Alpines, Jenny in 12th and 13th.
Yeah, and Alonso reporting no grip anywhere. Now, he went onto the medium tyre on lap 12, which means he's only done 15 laps on them. They're meant to last about 30 laps, so maybe drivers starting to struggle with those grip. We know the tyres can be punished here.
And this is going to be Hamilton saying on the radio, I can't go any quicker.
And he's just gone so wide out of turn 4, over track limits, which are in place, but he's not had a warning or anything about that just yet. But he's clearly pushing it as hard as he can. Verstappen gets within 2 seconds, and now he can see the Mercedes getting closer and closer to him. Bottas is coming back into this as well. Let's not forget Bottas, Toto Wolff giving him the hurry up. He's in shot as well. You've got Hamilton 1.9 seconds ahead of Verstappen, and Bottas is only 4 seconds back as well. So he's still there or thereabouts in this race.
Lap 28 of 56, so we're only at half race distance. So in theory, well, is this a bit too early to go for the undercut if you're Red Bull?
They've got the hard tyres to go to, so the theory says they can go a little bit earlier. But if Hamilton's already starting to drop on his hard tyres...
Into the pits comes Lewis Hamilton from the race lead. Mercedes once again on the front foot in terms of their battle with Red Bull. It's another set of hard tyres for Lewis Hamilton, so this will send him to the end of the Grand Prix. What will Red Bull do now to react to this? A 2.4 second pit stop. Nice quick stop for Mercedes. What happens now, Jolyon Palmer?
Red Bull have got to keep going.
So Lewis is in the pits. Verstappen could have undercut him, so we're going long.
So Bottas being told he's going long, basically to follow whatever Verstappen does, almost.
Verstappen has got to go long and long and long and just open up a tyre advantage for the end of the Grand Prix now. There's still a long way to go. 26 laps left after this one of the Grand Prix. Verstappen back in the lead.
He's only done 11 laps so far on those tyres. The longest we saw was Sergio Perez doing, well, in fact, Verstappen previously did 17 laps on his mediums.
I wonder if Hamilton might have cooked his hard tyres by going so quickly, so soon after putting them on out the box. He was flying 3 seconds a lap for the first couple of laps he put them on. That gave him the undercut. But that drop that he had on a hard tyre is not what Mercedes needed or would have expected. And it's forced him to pit him again way earlier. way earlier than he should have done. And now maybe advantage back to Red Bull. It's swinging either way right now, but Verstappen's just got to keep going, and he's going to have a fast car at the end of the race to do some overtaking.
Meanwhile, side by side between Sebastian Vettel and Nicholas Latifi, the Williams driver, losing out to Vettel, who's made his pit stop and is now trying to climb back up the order. He's up behind his teammate Lance Stroll, who's in 15th position, having just pitted. So the Aston Martins look like they're quite a way out of the mix at the moment.
Well, Stroll's just pitted. That's going to make everyone else in the midfield pit as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be the flurry of Ricciardo, Leclerc, Norris jumping in soon, which will unleash Perez back into that 4th place. And we've got a big scrap coming for 5th.
Jenny.
Yeah, just looking at Fernando Alonso and listening to his radio, he thinks they've got some issue with deployment, and the team have just said, yep, affirm, we see an issue on our side. Unfortunately, nothing we can do at the moment. So Alpine not having a particularly happy day at day 1 of their career.
Carlos Sainz sets his fastest lap of the Grand Prix in 8th position. Kimi Raikkonen comes into the pits in the Alfa Romeo. So this is where it's all going to mix up in those midfield battles. This is Lewis Hamilton's radio.
We could have kept in there a little bit longer, I think.
Danger of the undercut, Lewis. We had to take the stop.
So Hamilton's saying, I could have held off Verstappen, and the team saying, yeah, but he was too close to us. He would have pitted and passed us without any trouble.
Okay, so you asked me what Red Bull could have done at the first stop.
Yeah.
We've now got the example. Mercedes and Red Bull with different theories. Red Bull knew Hamilton was in undercut range, but they didn't want to stop early. They didn't want to give Hamilton the better tyres to attack later on. Hamilton jumps Verstappen. Next time around, it's role reversal. Verstappen gets within undercut range of Hamilton, and Mercedes do preempt it. They do pit him early, and Hamilton's going to have to deal with Verstappen at the end of the Grand Prix. Bottas also jumping into the pits now.
So, that radio message seemed to insinuate they'd extend a little longer than that, to be perfectly honest with you, I thought.
Horrible stop.
Oh, it's a very slow stop for Bottas. The front right hasn't come off. They finally get it replaced. And now Bottas is away, but instead of being a 2-second pit stop, it's an 11-second pit stop. I don't think that'll quite bring him out in the sort of Norris-Leclerc range, but it will totally eliminate him from the battle for the lead of the Grand Prix. As I say that, he comes out behind Leclerc and Norris, and just ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, but they will all have to pit again. So I don't think it'll affect his 3rd place, but it means that it is just Hamilton versus Verstappen now for the win in the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Wonderful news for Red Bull.
Yeah.
Wonderful news. It might not seem like anything because this was already Hamilton v Verstappen, but Mercedes were using Bottas there as a tactical pawn to just try and get Verstappen to pit and limit his tyre advantage at the end of the race. If Bottas pits, Verstappen once again would have had to either pit the next lap to cover him off or lose another Mercedes worth of track position. But with this horrible stop, the right front just didn't come off for so long. Bottas found the res in 1st gear, ready to go, and as a driver, you're sitting in there. It's almost no time at all between stopping and going again, but it was for Bottas. 10 seconds lost.
Max info at this stage, both Lewis and Valtteri using the exit at turn 4, so feel free to do the same until we're told not to.
Yeah, I was legal, man. The whole weekend we couldn't do it.
Well, that's a little bit of an interesting nugget. Max Verstappen being told that the 2 Mercedes are going really wide on the exit of turn 4 and aren't getting in trouble for it, so you might as well do it as well. Jenny Gow.
Emanuele Pirro is the man in the steward's office today as the former driver, so it'll be interesting. That's probably a nudge to them to say, hey, look what they're doing. And just a note on that Bottas stop, they actually released him and dropped him down, which is quite unusual for them to do. And then they had to put him back up onto the stands to get back at that front right tyre. So a real mishmash, another pit stop problem for Mercedes.
We haven't had too many of them, have we?
Back to last year.
Oh, they did. They had a big one here. You're right.
Clanger, drop.
Yeah, this one wasn't even as bad as that one, actually, that cost George Russell a first win on his stand-in appearance for Lewis Hamilton. But it does mean that Verstappen now can do what he likes in terms of strategy. Just keep going and keep going and keep going. There's no pressure to avoid being passed by Bottas just yet with an undercut. And it's all going to mean he gets, with every lap he doesn't pit, fresher tyres to attack Hamilton at the end of the Grand Prix. And Hamilton's got a long way to go. On those hard tyres that he pitted onto again, they were degrading quite quickly in that middle stint. He's going to be degrading quickly again at the end, and Verstappen is going to have a big tyre advantage. For me, Verstappen now favourite for this race.
Jenny?
Yeah, certainly. Vettel managed to do 25 laps on his mediums. You remember at the end of that stint, he was just getting swallowed up by absolutely everybody. So to push it to 26 laps for Hamilton, I think that's going to be extremely dodgy and difficult.
Well, that's a question. Into the pits now comes the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. As you say, Hamilton then did 15 laps on the hards previously, and we've still got 23. Is this going to be a three-stop for Mercedes?
He didn't pit because he was out of tyres, though. He pitted
but
to
he was
cover
slow because he was out of tyres.
He was slower, but he obviously could have gone a lot longer, and actually radioed to say he could have gone a lot longer. But what we might get is Mercedes realising that Verstappen's going to be too fast and pass Lewis Hamilton for the lead, and maybe they do go for a set of soft tyres at the end and try and just hunt down Verstappen, flip it on its head again and be the hunter at the end of the Grand Prix. They've got that option, but it's whether they think it's a lost cause staying out and holding Verstappen back.
Lap 33 of 56 in the Bahrain Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso's got a problem, I think.
Okay, we might have lost rear brakes now. We are boxing the snap.
Okay, box.
Okay, they think they've lost rear brakes. He was coming very steadily into the pit lane, and I think Renault's Fernando Alonso's first race back for Alpine is going to end in retirement. He gets lifted up and pushed back into the pit lane.
Welcome back to Formula One. Just how you left it.
Welcome to Team Enstone. Lap 34 of 56. Verstappen leading, Hamilton second. Just on that turn 4 conversation, apparently the FIA did say they would be deleting times in practice and qualifying for track limits at turn 4, but didn't say that they would be doing that in the race. So seems that there's different rules for the race as opposed to practice and qualifying.
Why delete the times in practice and qualifying and then say you can do what you like in the race? That makes no sense at all.
Scruffy lap for Lando Norris, scruffy pit stop I should say, 3.9 seconds, so loses a couple of seconds there and comes out behind Carlos Sainz. He should still keep in front of Charles Leclerc just about, but that will make it a little bit sketchier than it would have been before.
Yeah, McLaren have not been great on their pit stops for a while, and that wasn't the smoothest, but it's still good enough for Norris to keep ahead of Leclerc in their fight, and it's still really close between them. Remember how they had that big scrap in the early laps? Norris came out on top. It's still close. I thought Leclerc would be dropped, but he stayed there right between the two McLarens. Norris 6th, Leclerc 7th, and Ricciardo 8th. It was quite crucial, that pass Norris made on him.
So Verstappen leads, but needs to make one more pit stop. Here's Hamilton in second.
And we'll increase that target lap time to low 34s.
If I do that, I'm not going to make it to the end.
Okay, so is that the three-stop conversation they're having now?
Yeah, panic. You're not going fast enough. We're in trouble here. They pitted early, so Hamilton was doing a 35.0. He's just been told to find nearly a second. He's done a 1 minute 34.6 there, so he's found 4/10. That's not enough, according to Pete Bonington, his race engineer, because the gap to Verstappen is 18 seconds still. So Verstappen's going to pit, come out behind Hamilton, but he's going to roar up to the back even quicker than he did the last time, and this time they're going to the flag. There's no get out of Hamilton pitting for another set of tyres unless he switches to a three-stop. But with every lap that Verstappen keeps going, he's going to find it easier to get to the end of the race on his tyres at the end. And he can go to a set of hard tyres as well, that should be the most durable of all. It's tricky now, the balance for Mercedes. Do they just hold Hamilton in the pit window of Verstappen, and then they're going to be having Verstappen on the gearbox when he comes out, but Hamilton maybe has not killed his tyres? Or does Lewis go hunting for a bit of pace right now, but then he's going to be in more danger of running out of tyres for the end of the race, as he's just said back to Pete Bonington?
Genuinely good stuff. It's Grand Prix, enjoying it.
It's going to be a fight on the track at this rate for a Grand Prix win. And between Verstappen and Hamilton, this is what we wanted to see for so long, and they do seem so evenly matched. It's been swinging either way for the whole race. No more angry radio messages from Verstappen, agitated, I should say, about his car not working either, with the potential differential problem that he spotted from lap 1. Or maybe he's just driving around it a little better now.
So Verstappen leads 17 seconds clear of Lewis Hamilton, but if he were to pit now, he would come out behind the Mercedes driver, but he would have much fresher tyres. He has to stop again. Hamilton may stop again as well. The target was dropped. Here's Verstappen.
If my pace is good, just keep me out.
Understood, Max.
So Verstappen saying, if the pace is good, just keep me out, keep me pounding around. And Hamilton actually doesn't have much pace at the moment. He was asked to do low 34s instead of low 35s, basically. And he's not quite hitting that. 34.7, 3/10 slower than his teammate Valtteri Bottas on the last lap, whose tyres are just 2 laps fresher.
Yeah, and he's holding a bit of pace back because Bottas is a good chunk quicker. And Hamilton, I'm sure, can have a bit more pace in there. But he doesn't want to kill those tyres right now. Remember when he pitted the first time for the undercut? He found seconds on Verstappen. Right now, it's just 0.8 per lap. He's chipping away at the gap. It's 16.5 seconds right now. Verstappen leading over Hamilton. But he knows there's a fight to come for the win of the Grand Prix. He doesn't want to blow it all right now, trying to get to the back of Verstappen and then have nothing left to defend against him.
There's some fights further down the order. Kimi Raikkonen is trying to get past George Russell for 10th place. Russell has only made 1 pit stop. Raikkonen has made 2, and they nearly made contact, as they did in the Nürburgring last year, but Raikkonen got around the outside in the end, and Russell drops down a spot. Tsunoda and Vettel are coming in behind him. Millsy says, tuning back into F1 after a few years, decided to start a new drinking game every time they say the word undercut. Might be in bed a little early tonight, and starting work a bit rough tomorrow.
Be an odd race if we weren't talking about it right now.
There goes Tsunoda up the inside of George Russell, and the Williams drops back another place. Solid enough race this from Russell, miles clear of his teammate Nicholas Latifi, but not really quite able to get involved in the fight in the midfield. He's physically in the fight now, but I don't think he is in actuality.
Raikkonen's done a great job.
Yeah.
Second pit stop, and he's up in the top 10 looking for a point. Alfa Romeo, they've made a good step forward this year. They were in the doldrums last year with Haas and Williams at the back. Haas and Williams remain at the back, although, as you mentioned, George Russell in the fight at the moment, but won't be there, I don't think, by the flag. But Raikkonen, certainly, and Alfa Romeo look like they're getting back towards the midfield team that we're more used to the Sauber entry, Alfa Romeo now being.
Russell does now pit, lap 37 of 56. Here's Hamilton's radio.
And Lewis, we're getting warnings about track limits, turn 4, so just tidy that up.
So, I thought there was no track limits.
What a mess
Yeah,
this
copy
is.
that on track limits, Lewis, but we are getting the messages from race control, so you will get a black and white flag next time, then 5 seconds.
I've been doing the same thing all race.
Yeah, they're just getting a bit bumpy about it now.
There we go. There's more track limits nonsense, but we'll get into that later. Here's the order. Verstappen leading, 15 seconds clear of Hamilton, 15 seconds clear of Bottas in third. Sergio Perez is in fourth, having made 2 pit stops, but he's probably going to the end of the Grand Prix on this and might even end in 4th position. Sainz in 5th, will have to stop again in the Ferrari. Norris in 6th for McLaren. 7th is Charles Leclerc in the other Ferrari. 8th is Daniel Ricciardo's McLaren. 9th is Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. 10th is Kimi Raikkonen. Carlos Sainz is going to be coming into the pits now, so that will promote Lando Norris up into 4th place. Jenny Gao.
Yeah, just looking at pit stops, Verstappen, I think Red Bull are being quite clever here. They're just holding him out. Obviously, they want to go as long as they can, but also if, just say, there was a safety car that came out, or a virtual safety car, it would give them a clear pit stop window just by the tiniest of margins. So they'll be hoping that there's an incident at some point somewhere that they can capitalise on.
And of course, if there was a safety car and Verstappen had pitted, it would adversely, it would help Mercedes at that point. So a safety car with Verstappen not pitting means he can pit under the safety car and lose less time. But if he's already behind Hamilton, then maybe Hamilton can have a cheap pit stop to change from his tyres and be on something more fighty for the end of the Grand Prix.
That 39 of 56. Yuki Tsunoda round the outside of Kimi Raikkonen for 10th position. And that is for genuine position, as far as I can tell, for Yuki Tsunoda. So he's managed to get back up into the points, having started fairly well in the grand scheme of things, 13th on the grid, but he dropped right to the back on the opening lap, and he's managed to climb back up into 10th place. He's on 4-lap-old hard tyres, so he will be going to the end of the Grand Prix on these, and he's having a solid enough race in that AlphaTauri. As far as debuts go, where you get sent to the back of the grid, Red Bull coming into the pit lane with another set of medium tyres, so it must be for Perez in 4th position. Into the pits comes Sergio Perez, and he's going to change from the hards to the mediums. Thought he would be going to the end of the Grand Prix there, Perez, but seemingly not.
But he might have the pace to do it with the extra pit stop as well. 2.3 seconds that for Red Bull, that pit stop. Very strong effort. He's going to come out behind Norris and Leclerc, who have already come through. He's going to come out behind Daniel Ricciardo as well. And right with Lance Stroll. Maybe just about ahead of Lance Stroll with that very quick pit stop from Red Bull. And now he's got to fight and attack to get back to that 4th place.
Up towards turn 4. Perez up ahead of Stroll. Stroll might get the DRS here, he does, and Perez will have to defend. Stroll to the outside in the Aston Martin. Perez on his fresher tyres will try and send it in deep into 4. They're very, very close, absolutely wheel to wheel. A little bit of contact, that might give Perez a bit of damage. They're still side by side coming into 5 and 6, and Stroll holds the place. Into the pits now comes Max Verstappen. The race leader takes off the medium tyres, puts on the hard tyres, and he is going to emerge now. Will he be behind Lewis Hamilton? Yes, he will. Hamilton retakes the lead of the Grand Prix. Verstappen, though, will be on a very fighty strategy as he exits in 2nd place. Meanwhile, Lance Stroll is still just ahead of Sergio Perez in 7th position, but the Mexican was very keen to try and get through.
Former teammates racing so hard. I was wincing at every corner, waiting for Perez to just spin Stroll around as they were turning in on each other and racing with paper's width between the two wheels, but somehow kept it going in a nice clean fight. It is a matter of time before Perez comes back through. He's on a new medium, but Stroll clearly making it very, very difficult for his former teammate in the Red Bull. 1.9 second pit stop for the other Red Bull of Max Verstappen. He's 8 seconds behind Hamilton, flat out now to the end of the Grand Prix. 16 laps, go and chase Hamilton and win the Grand Prix.
Perez passes Stroll fairly easily this time with the DRS down towards turn 1, so Perez up into 7th position, 3.6 seconds back from Daniel Ricciardo. That feels doable, to be honest, for Sergio Perez in the Red Bull. Lap 40 of 56, but now it's all about the straight fight for the win, isn't it? Hamilton versus Verstappen. Verstappen 8 seconds back, but surely will be lapping quicker. Now, well, and what situation are Mercedes in here with Hamilton? They asked him to sort of up his pace and maybe do a 3-stopper, but surely a 3-stopper here doesn't work.
Deep trouble is the position they're in. They've got the 7-time champion at the wheel.
So Verstappen forecast to catch us in about 10 laps.
And there's 15 to go in the Grand Prix.
And what they need from that 7-time champion is a duel in the desert 2014 style win here, where he held off Nico Rosberg on worse tyres.
Lap 41 of 56, 15 laps to go. Lewis Hamilton is leading the way, but he's just been told on the radio that Max Verstappen will be right behind you and trying to overtake you in 10 laps time. So it looks like we're going to have a grandstand finish. Hamilton leading at the moment, but Verstappen's coming. Full commentary on 5 Love Sports Extra. This is going to be good stuff. Bottas in 3rd, 8.2 seconds adrift of Verstappen. Then it's a big gap back to Norris in 4th, who's comfortably dealing with the threat of Charles Leclerc at the moment. Good stuff this from Lando Norris, and way ahead of his teammate Daniel Ricciardo.
I don't think it's going to be 10 laps. I think it's going to be less for Verstappen. He's flying on this first flying lap of his hard tyre run. The gap's already coming down. Hamilton's going to have to get elbows out and find some Hamilton-esque defence to hold on to this win. I don't think Mercedes have got anything left in terms of strategy, because if they pit now, they'll just be too far behind, and Verstappen's not going to have degradation before the end of the race. He does the fastest middle sector of the Grand Prix so far. In the middle sector alone, he's 0.6 quicker than Hamilton. The gap is going to go from 7.6 seconds to less than 6.6 seconds, a second a lap.
So what do you do? What's the game plan here? 15 laps to go now as Hamilton comes across the line. Verstappen is going fast. Do you push hard on your tyres to try and stay ahead for as long as possible, or do you ease off so you have better tyres when the fight comes? Or is there nothing you can do?
Either or. he's in trouble. You've got to have something left to fight. There's no point in... he's not going to be quick enough, Hamilton, right now, with his older tyres, 10 laps older tyres, to hold off Verstappen's pace. The Red Bull we know is quick.
Just make sure you've got enough tyres to challenge when you approach him.
So that's Verstappen being told, don't overdo it, catching him, because catching is one thing, overtaking is something completely different.
1.1 seconds Verstappen was quicker than Hamilton on the last lap. It went from 7.6 halfway around the next lap, a lap and a half, and it's down to 6 seconds. The gap. He's just got to try and keep something left to fight. With keeping as much pace as he can right now is a real balance. And it's so difficult to do this because with Verstappen coming quicker and quicker, the pace advantage he's got right now, he should be able to get in the DRS range and just put big pressure on Hamilton. The bad news for Hamilton, overtaking's not that hard around this circuit. There's 3 DRS zones, one into turn 1 and then another one into turn 4, which are particularly effective in passing. And how many times have we seen that already this Grand Prix? There's been overtaking all over the place. It's not Monaco, it's not Melbourne where we normally have the season opener. This is Bahrain where we see overtaking all the time. We see great races. We've got another one on the cards here and Hamilton is up against it.
He's just set a new Formula One record, Lewis Hamilton, of having led 5,112 laps of a Grand Prix. But if he doesn't win it at the end, it's not really going to matter. Lap 43 of 56, 14 to go. Verstappen on that last lap was 8 tenths quicker than Hamilton. So not an absolute rocket ship, but that was off the back of his message from GP saying, make sure you have some tyres when you get there.
He's still on the way. He's still on the way there. Very quick on this lap again. 5 seconds now, the gap. He's going to catch Hamilton. Hamilton's got a bit of traffic now as well from a Williams, who doesn't get out of the way into turn 11 either, so he's going to have to follow the Williams through turn 11 and turn 12. It's George Russell, who's just pitted for a fresh set of tyres and is minding his own business in 15th place, trying to hunt down Antonio Giovinazzi. Hamilton will be getting frustrated, though, still following Russell through turn 13 and up to 14. Then he should get out of the way. But that won't be helping Lewis Hamilton, who's lost half a second to Verstappen, who does the fastest middle sector of the Grand Prix once again.
Hamilton is under big pressure now. The gap is just 4.7 seconds. He's going to get a nice slipstream from Russell coming down the start-finish straight, so that'll help a little bit. And before Russell doesn't dive out of the way, does he? Hamilton has to send it up the inside on Russell, gets the move done, but wasn't the most compliant action from Russell. Not necessarily a criticism, just a fact. Jenny Gow?
Yeah, just thinking about that Bottas slow stop before by Mercedes. If that hadn't have happened, Bottas would have been right up behind Verstappen and being able to pile on pressure to that Red Bull. But as it is, they've got a clear way. Verstappen, no pressure behind him, just hunting down Hamilton.
Without the slow stop, Bottas would have been ahead of Verstappen. That's the thing. There's no way Verstappen would have been able to go so long without losing track position to Bottas. So either Bottas, if he had a normal stop without losing 10 seconds or 8 seconds, either Verstappen would be behind both Mercedes now trying to catch, or he would have pitted a while ago and kept ahead of Bottas but not had this big tyre advantage that he's got.
Perez has caught the back of Daniel Ricciardo for 6th position and he sends it straight away. Sergio Perez late on the brakes into turn 1, gets up the inside, and that is 6th place now for the Red Bull driver. Leclerc is 5.5 seconds ahead, and Perez on that last lap was about 0.6 of a second quicker, so it's not impossible for Perez to catch Leclerc by the end of the Grand Prix, but it looks as though a top 6 finish is on. Meanwhile, the gap at the front is still 4.6 seconds. Hamilton gained a decent chunk, actually, coming down, and there's a spin, and it's one of the Alpines of Ocon has collided with Sebastian Vettel down at the first corner. So Ocon and Vettel have collided. They were fighting, I think, over 12th position, and they've both managed to get going again, so no safety car or the like, but that's ruined both of their races, which were not looking particularly strong anyway. But on that last lap, it was just half a second that Verstappen took out of Hamilton's lead.
Not even. even, just over 0.4 of a second, and Hamilton did his best lap of the Grand Prix, so he went for option 2, save something in the tyres and fight for the end. 11 laps to go, 4 seconds the gap. Verstappen's got to do a little bit more because he's got to get through that dirty air zone and then pass Hamilton.
Clumsy stuff from Sebastian Vettel. Ocon had made the move.
Front wing damage. Why did he have to change line? I'll lock up if he changes line.
I think Vettel's got that one quite wrong, to be honest with you. He went to tuck it back in behind Ocon and just brake too late. I don't think Ocon changed his line in the slightest.
No, that's not great from Vettel there. Ocon was actually on the racing line, just starting to turn into the corner. It was Vettel who went to the inside, tried to move to the outside, and just wham, into the back of the Frenchman, and they both go spinning around. That one's on Vettel.
Lewis Hamilton leads the Grand Prix. He's about to come across the line to have 11 laps to go. That last lap, as we say, 0.4 of a second, the gap came down. This lap, it has been another 0.4 in the first 2 sectors alone. Hamilton out across the line, and the gap is going to be 3.9 seconds this time. So it's another half a second or so. So the rapidity of the closing in has slowed, but it's still happening, and we've still got 11 laps to go.
George Russell now ahead of Max Verstappen. The traffic that Hamilton has is going to be going through to Verstappen as well, and he has now cleared Russell at turn 1, but lost a little bit of time there. Tell you what, he's making a good job of this. There's Lewis Hamilton. It looked like Verstappen had all the trump cards with that pace advantage. He still has the pace advantage, but Hamilton is digging so deep right now to just keep those tyres alive with a good pace, and that gap is just starting to stabilise. Verstappen's nudging it down all the time, but 10 laps to go, 4 seconds the gap. It's a thriller.
Well, this is what we've been saying the whole time, though, isn't it? Because even if Hamilton wins or doesn't win this race, if Hamilton wins this race, it will have been quite a drive to hold off Verstappen with the fresher tyres and the faster, etc., etc. That's where Hamilton is so good in the fight. That's where he's impressive, not having no competition and managing to beat Bottas. These are the scenarios that you want to see. Carlos Sainz is attacking Lance Stroll for 8th position now. The Ferrari has the inside coming into turn 1, gets up into 8th place. Stroll will try and fight back as they come towards turn 4, but Sainz, I imagine, with quite a bit fresher tyres, won't be too troubled, and indeed he's not. So Sainz up into 8th position. The order is Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, the top 3. Norris, Leclerc, Perez, Ricciardo, Sainz, Stroll and Tsunoda, the top 10. Hamilton now is getting a bit of traffic as well, and with 10 laps to go, the gap is just 3.3 seconds.
Cleared Esteban Ocon very nicely on the start-finish straight there, so it's another car between he and Max Verstappen in second. 3.3 seconds the gap, 0.6 that time to Verstappen. Maybe Mercedes was spot on about their prediction. He's going to have sort of 4 laps to try and pass Hamilton when he gets there. But the pace advantage isn't huge. It's not 1 or 2 seconds we're talking. It's now tenths here or there. And we know you need a good pace advantage to break through that dirty air.
That will be the question. Can Verstappen close that gap in enough to break the dirty air? Hamilton is also presumably getting a little bit of DRS here and there as he's passing the back markers.
It's helping him on the straight, certainly passing Ocon on this lap, and now Sebastian Vettel gets out of the way. Those two can continue a fight. Vettel very compliant with the blue flags. He's Mr. Anti-blue flags, isn't he? So when he's getting them, he jumped out of the way of Hamilton into turn 9, kinder than he probably had to be. But it's another car between Hamilton and Verstappen. They got 2.7 seconds, but Vettel and Ocon are between the top 2, and Verstappen's going to have to clear them without losing much time.
So I love that they collided, and now they're back together again on the circuit, Vettel and Ocon, but in the other order. So how hard is Vettel going to fight to keep Ocon behind? It's the sort of thing where give the place back, maybe you don't get a penalty later on. Ocon pulls to the inside and does make the move, and then pulls back in front of Vettel, which is risky business considering 3 laps ago, but the job is done now. How quickly will Vettel yield to Verstappen?
And this is a problem for Verstappen because they're busy having their own fight. Now Vettel should jump out of the way, but he's got DRS to come back at Ocon, and he is jumping out of the way, I think, just going to the inside and letting Verstappen through at turn 4. Then there's still Ocon for Verstappen to clear. And there's no way that Vettel letting Ocon through is going to clear him of a penalty for ramming him a couple of laps ago and sending them both spinning. Ocon jumps out of the way at turn 8. So back to a straight fight. 2.6 seconds the gap, 8 laps to go. Verstappen quicker, but by how much?
Lap 48 of 56 here on 5 Live Sports Extra, the opening Grand Prix of the 2021 Formula One World Championship season. Down the back straight into the left-hander of turn 11, and it's 2.7 seconds the gap at the moment. So they climb up the hill now and then drop down over the other side. For a track in the desert, there's a fair amount of undulation, and the gap is 2.5 seconds now. Verstappen up behind Hamilton. They're about to come across the line to start lap 49 of 56.
So much pressure on both of these guys.
We're in the closing stages here, and Verstappen is still closing in on Lewis Hamilton. There's just 2.4 seconds between them with 7 laps to go. Full commentary on Sports Extra. Hamilton across the line that time. Verstappen only took 0.3 of a second out of him. Valtteri Bottas doesn't have the pace. He did a personal best on the last lap. Okay, he was only a tenth slower than Hamilton, but he's dropped well back. He was never sort of in contention, admittedly, but well, actually, having said that, he's only 15 seconds back from Verstappen and Hamilton, which is the gap after the pit stops.
So Verstappen now car behind.
Leave me to it, Bono.
Leave me to it, Bono, is the message from Hamilton, as he is told Verstappen is now the car behind. How easy is it to work out what car's behind you when you're an F1 driver?
Not very easy when there's a few seconds between you, because the mirrors are small, and especially actually under the lights it's a little bit harder as well. The Red Bull's probably the easiest one to spot, or one of them, because it's got a nice yellow nose that lights up and is a bit more obvious. There's a few darker colours and you just don't know who's there, but it doesn't matter unless it's a Red Bull for Hamilton right now. Oh, 2 seconds. They're both working so hard. I mean, great drive from both drivers here. Verstappen just nudges it to under 2 seconds, but he's got to pass him this time. We've been talking undercuts, and the guy's going to have to do another shot now. We've been talking undercuts, but now this is about going to the flag and actually making the move stick.
Well, so what do you do if you are Verstappen? Is this where things change for Verstappen? Is this where it's the first Grand Prix of a season? You don't go steaming in everything locked up and collide with Hamilton. You take 19 points because he's got the fastest lap for second position and happily sit there.
No, you don't, because it's Hamilton in the lead.
I'm going to lead you to it. Let us know if you need anything.
If you're thinking championship, you can sometimes take a second place or a third place. But if Max Verstappen doesn't win this championship, it will be Lewis Hamilton that does. So you can't take second behind him. You've got to go for it and try and beat your main rival every time you can. Verstappen's aggressive. We've seen it so many times. He can and will go for it if he gets half a chance, and he's a second and a half back. There is, I bet you, not 1% of Max Verstappen right now that's thinking, yeah, second will be good points with the fastest lap as well. No, he took pole position by 0.4. He wants this win.
Superb end to the Bahrain Grand Prix so far. A really, really interesting, entertaining, intriguing 56 laps of racing. And we've still got 6 of them with stuff to unfold. 1.3 seconds the gap. It's not quite going to be DRS this time around, but this is the key moment. Can Verstappen break through the dirty air here and get within DRS range of Hamilton?
Good lap from Verstappen, half a second down, so we're 1.4 seconds now, and there's another car that they've got a lap coming up. I think it's Giovinazzi's Alfa Romeo. I don't know if that's good news for Verstappen or Hamilton at this point. It just depends on the luck of the draw where you catch the back markers. So much at stake now. If Hamilton catches him into turn 11, he's got to follow through some of the faster corners and lose time. It's going to help Verstappen to follow through on the straight. But if Hamilton can get DRS and blast through on the straight and the back markers get in the way for the corners, it's going to help him. It really is coming down to that.
1.3 seconds between them still. Hamilton will be able to see Verstappen very clearly in his mirrors at this point. They drop down the hill into the double left-hander of turns 9 and 10. Then out onto the back straight, wide for Hamilton, goes off the circuit, rejoins. Will that have cost him a huge amount of time? It looks like it has. Hamilton is now just a second ahead of Verstappen, and a very unusual mistake under pressure from the 7-time world champion.
Yeah, just running wide on the exit of turn 10. Managed to actually keep the throttle on over the dusty part on the runoff area. He's lost half a second, but that's a first crack there for Hamilton. Remember, he's on older tyres. These hard tyres, they weren't lasting that long in the middle stint for Hamilton, and they look like he's struggling on them again. Verstappen's going to get DRS.
They're half the age, Max Verstappen's tyres, compared to Lewis Hamilton, but enough about tyres and offsets and undercuts and the like. It's about, can Hamilton hold off Max Verstappen with 5 laps to go? Verstappen has the DRS. He noses towards the inside into the braking zone at turn 1, but he's not going to be close enough. Hamilton just looking so gripless on the exit of the first corner. The sound you can hear is the Honda engine that powers the Red Bull up behind Hamilton. This is going to be a really, really tough one for Hamilton to hold on. Verstappen's just got so much more grip.
This is it now. Forget the pace, forget anything else. It's just going to be whether Hamilton can hold him off. He's within DRS range, and he shouldn't be going any further back now. Verstappen, he's got to crawl over the back of the Mercedes for the race lead. Still, the Alfa Romeo is just ahead of him as well. That might now present Verstappen a nice opportunity.
Through the left-hander at turn 10, where Hamilton went wide last time. No such troubles this time around. Hamilton might get the DRS from the Alfa Romeo in front, but Verstappen is looking ominously close.
He might need it this time. He really might need it, because Verstappen's so close. DRS into turn 11, which he didn't have last time as Hamilton ran wide, and it just helps him stay closer through the final couple of corners. Hamilton's going to need some DRS here to hold him back. I don't think he's going to get it.
This looks like it might be the move for Max Verstappen down towards the final corner. Hamilton through the final corner to have just 4 laps to go, but Max Verstappen in the Red Bull is right behind him. He's in the slipstream of the Mercedes driver as they come charging down towards turn 1 at 200 miles an hour. Is this the move from Verstappen? Verstappen goes to the outside. Hamilton covers the inside line, and Verstappen is now going to try again as they come through turns 1, 2, and then 3 up the hill towards turn 4. He has the DRS again. Hamilton covers the inside line again. Verstappen to the outside in the Red Bull. Later on the brakes, the two go wheel to wheel, and Verstappen gets past. Brilliant overtake from the Red Bull driver, and he's into first position. He leads the Grand Prix. Hamilton down to second place. Closing stages on Sports Extra. Whoa, that was a great fight. That was really close. Hamilton did all he could to hold it in on the inside up into turn 4, but Verstappen just had the grip.
He made it as tricky as he could for Verstappen. He didn't have DRS from passing Giovinazzi. Oh, he's slowing. Verstappen's slowing.
Max Verstappen, now, did he pass Hamilton off the circuit? Is that what he's done? Did he pass Hamilton off the track, all 4 wheels over the white line, and he's given the place back to avoid a penalty?
Quite possibly. He did run wide. Hamilton barreled in speed. Yeah, Verstappen's up to speed again. Oh, big snap of oversteer into turn 13. And he's lost a bit of time there. So close in the dirty air of Hamilton. I think maybe that's exactly what it is. I think you've called that spot on. He went wide off the track and didn't fancy incurring the wrath of the stewards. And he's going to try and do it again. But now suddenly he's got no rear grip. And Hamilton's back in the lead. He's got to do it again.
3 to go. Hamilton back in front of Verstappen, down towards the first corner. Verstappen closing in very quickly, but he's not going to be as close this time around. He is still close, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's going to get the run out through turn 4 the way he did on the previous tour. So Hamilton leading the way, Verstappen in second, and the overtake won't happen this time around. 0.4 of a second between them. Smart, clever thinking from Red Bull, that, isn't it? Because that's the sort of thing that these stewards would not get around to looking at before the end of the Grand Prix, and you could have your win taken away from you.
He's not guaranteed it now, Jack.
No,
he's in second. It will only be smart thinking if he does it again in the next couple of laps. 0.8 now Hamilton leads. Verstappen's going to get DRS on the exit of this corner, turn 10. Pop it open just to try and shut the gap to turn 11.
So they're fighting at the front. It could get smelly. Maybe there's a position to pick up at the end.
So Bottas being told the two are fighting at the front, but Yeah, okay, they are, but let's focus on that rather than whatever Bottas's engineer thinks is smelly. We're going to have 2 to go as we come across the line this time, and Verstappen is close. He's 0.6 of a second between, well, 0.9 as they kite. It's just crept over to over a second. Verstappen might not quite get DRS this time.
He might not. He might not. Hamilton's just found a second win there, the second half of this lap. I don't know if Verstappen will get DRS. No, he doesn't.
Oh, 2 to go, and Verstappen only has 1 more shot at taking the win. What a fascinating decision to give that back, because Red Bull could have argued that Hamilton forced Verstappen off the track.
Verstappen was ahead coming into the corner. Hamilton really sent it to try and fight back on the inside. Verstappen then went wide and took the place off the track, absolutely. But was he forced there? What would have happened if he stayed on the track? They'd have had contact. It all means that they've just donated the lead back to Lewis Hamilton, and he's going to have 1 lap to make it back. One big chance now, Verstappen, to win this Grand Prix that he had under control for a short time.
Who? They both did.
They both had it under control. No one's had it under control until Verstappen made the move. He made the move, he was on the better tyres, he could have gone, but he gave the place back sportingly.
But where's the pace got? What, 0.7 back from Hamilton? Maybe just the dirty air from the back markers or something was helping Verstappen close in a little more, because he's coming up the hill now through 12 and then into 13. And we'll see if he's going to be close enough this time around. It's going to be a real stretch for Verstappen. Again, he hasn't got a great run out. He might not get DRS again. Hamilton might hold on to this one superbly and win the Bahrain Grand Prix. 1 to go. Verstappen's going to get DRS just about, but is he going to be close enough for a look into turn 4? Final lap of the race. Hamilton leading, Verstappen second, the charge down towards turn 1. Verstappen closing into the Red Bull, super late on the brakes, maybe too late on the brakes, still gets on the power, now comes up towards turn 4, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. The final overtaking opportunity on the track. Verstappen is closing, shows his nose, Hamilton holds on. Half a lap to go now, and if Hamilton keeps it clean, he will win the Bahrain Grand Prix and the first race of 2021.
That decision may well come back to haunt Verstappen, to let Hamilton have the lead again. He's still so close through the middle sector. Hamilton's got to soak up this pressure. There's 1 more DRS spot to come after turn 10, but it's not into a conventional overtaking place.
Oh, Hamilton looked a little bit loose coming down through turn 10. The DRS opens for Max Verstappen. Hamilton is weaving around to try and block the slipstream like he's in Formula 2, doing everything possible to keep Max Verstappen behind. One of the most intense finishes. 3 corners to go, and Lewis Hamilton is back in front in Bahrain. Verstappen overtook him. Red Bull decided that he'd overtaken him illegally. They gave the place back to Hamilton, but Verstappen hasn't been able to fight back. Hamilton is holding off. They come down to the final corner. There's 2 car lengths between them. Hamilton turns through the final turn, comes towards the checkered flag, and wins the first race of 2021. Goodness me, as he had to fight for it, but the 7-time world champion starts 2021 with another victory, but probably one of the most intense victories he has ever secured. Verstappen finishing in second, Bottas third, but Hamilton has got a really tough, long season ahead of him, but he's won the first race of the year. What a remarkable Grand Prix. Bottas third, Norris will finish 4th ahead of Perez in 5th, Leclerc 6th, Ricciardo will just finish 7th ahead of Carlos Sainz. Sainz is only a second back, Tsunoda 9th, 10th for Lance Stroll. Bottas takes the fastest lap of the race on the last lap. We're getting a replay of that Hamilton-Verstappen moment, and yeah, the thing is with these stewards, would they have punished that? Like, who knows? And that's the risk, I guess, Red Bull didn't want to take.
So we're taking the outside of the track.
That was Hamilton saying that was an overtake on the outside of the track.
For the moment, let Lewis through.
And that was Verstappen saying, let Lewis through. So That's a really interesting call from Red Bull.
They just had faith that he would do it again.
Yeah.
They had faith that he'd pass him again. 3 more laps to pass him on better tyres. He made it stick once. And the way that he came up behind Hamilton in the end, they just thought that he would be able to do it again. But Hamilton found somewhere in there a reserve to just hold him back, and he never managed to get side by side, really. And Hamilton rarely ever cracked under pressure for a race win. You can't give him a second chance. You cannot give Lewis Hamilton a second chance to win a race. Give him a chance, and Verstappen was there, but not a second chance. Hindsight's a great thing, isn't it? I don't think the stewards are penalising that move that he did.
Hey guys, amazing job. I'm so grateful. Everyone back in the factory, everyone working so hard. I know we're not quick enough. We managed to do it, and that's teamwork.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Hamilton can only win because his car's the fastest.
He's going to put that to bed. He's going to put that to bed this year. He did not have the fastest car this weekend, but this is when Lewis Hamilton's also so good. He's not amazing when he's got the fastest car. He walks away with it, makes it look easy. But here, Verstappen had the best car, and Hamilton made it work with good strategy from Mercedes.
Why didn't you just let me go, man? I could have easily pulled this 5 seconds. I prefer to lose a win like that than be second like this.
Yeah, we had the instruction from race control, unfortunately, Max. But, that was a hell of a drive he put there.